The 2023 Auburn University Marching Band. For your halftime entertainment, we celebrate the 43-year reign of the Speed Metal Kings, Metallica. With 9 Grammy Awards and 14 nominations, 38 concert tours worldwide, and 11 studio albums that span 4 decades, the Titans of Thrash remain the standard by which all other metal is measured. We begin with a 1984 classic from their second album, For Whom the Bell Tolls, followed by the 1992 tour anthem, Wherever I May Roam. And then, let's turn down the house and light up the stage with the Auburn University Marching Band and their show, Metallica.
Sunday evening once again, and that means it's time for another live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast. We have episode 131 heading your way. As always, plenty to talk about in Auburn potpourri, catching you up on the news, and 2 main topics coming your way in the Auburn culture, sports, and family space. Let's get into all those different things right now. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it, you can qualify it through a variety of methods, time, people, places, and things. But at its heart and at its core, the Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. An easier way to say it, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. So thank you so much for joining us and what we're going to be doing for episode 131 of the Auburn Experience podcast. I'm your host, as always, Kyle Loomis, and alongside me, my good friend and yours, Mr. Austin Scott. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks so much, War Eagle Kyle. War Eagle to our viewers and listeners. Hope everyone's having a great end of June. We're coming down the pipe on a summer month ending, so that just means we're getting one step closer to another school year, another athletic year, but we still got plenty to cover.
Still plenty to cover, and I will tell you this much, Austin. We had to kind of whittle down what we were going to discuss in Auburn potpourri, or even moving some things back, because it was such a happening week in terms of maybe not like giant news stories and things out there, but just nice things that you can spend a little bit of time chopping up in the sports space, especially, but even non-sports space. So as I feel like I overdo it and say this a ton, Austin, there's plenty to talk about there. There is plenty to talk about in this show. We are going to do another Mount Rushmore for you guys, talk about a little bit about the NBA draft, and of course, get into Auburn potpourri here in just a little bit. But we like to start off the show by just kind of kicking back the tires. Is that a phrase? Is that a phrase?
Sure.
Kick
Kick the tires.
What's going on in our worlds and our little Auburn experience? Should I do mine first today, or do you want to?
Yeah, go for it.
I could
go right ahead.
I could steal the show a little bit here.
That's fine.
Show and tell at lunch. Do you know
I do. Yes, you can. We'll show and tell at night here.
Show and tell at night. But it's supposed to be fashion show. Anyway, this is not fashion.
Okay. It's okay.
This is a show and tell. We are going to talk about something this week that I acquired. A shout out to my brother-in-law, Ryan Reese, who is busy preparing for their upcoming child and is having to clear out the rooms. And you know, Austin knows a little bit about
that all too well.
So when you go to help them for the weekend and he's like, hey, man, you want this? And just plop something in front of you. And like, you sure you want to hand this over to me? What am I going to say? No, a national championship football. It is not signed or anything like that, so I don't want to oversell it, but it is still pretty cool. It's got that logo. But what's really unique about this is it's got all, of course, we'll just cover that one up down there. It's got every BCS national champion on there since at that time that had been played and who had won it in that configuration. Again, I'm sorry for all that at the bottom there. But you can see it's got a really cool
that's really good looking
design on the back. So it's in pretty good condition. I don't know if you guys, it's got all the BCS logos, the date, obviously, and things like that. So while you all don't get to see the signed footballs, they're sitting over there now. I had to move things around. This will certainly go over there, but I'll probably find a way to get this signed. Who would you, other than, of course, Cam Newton, other than Gene Chizik, other than... That's probably the main two that everybody's gonna say. Who would you like to see this get signed by? Give me someone that's like a wow, but maybe not someone that anybody's thinking of.
Man, that's a really good one. I think you could go. Now, I'm not going to go with feasibility here on who you could you could reasonably get
Are
quickly.
you saying I don't got the hookups? Come on.
I'm saying you don't got the hookups. I think that you could get Mike Blanc because he's the new FCA
That's a good
chaplain.
one.
Played on that team, won a ring. I think that that's a very possible, option. But I think if you're looking for someone else, I think any of those receivers, I think Darvin Adams, Emory Blake, Cody Burns, who's one of your personal favorites, would be all good options to get on the ball. So
Conversation over with. Conversation over with. Done.
Cody, I don't remember where Cody is now, but maybe I think he's with the Saints. So
I
maybe if you're down that way.
I think he's with the Saints. Maybe he'll swing back to Auburn soon here, and I can find out a little heads up. If anybody know anything like that, let me know. Cody, this is for you, baby. I don't have a Cody Burns signed anything yet. How does that happen?
Yeah.
Anyway, that is my show and tell.
That's a good one.
Thanks for my brother-in-law for handing that over to me so graciously, adding it to the collection. I think he wanted it just to stay in the family, you know?
Yeah, smart.
That's how it works here. So that's really the big thing that's happened for me this weekend.
Yeah, well, we had a pretty good weekend. My kids are with my mom this weekend, so Emily, it's very quiet in our house, so we got some time this weekend by ourselves and to do some things that we've been trying to get done while the kids are at Camp Gin up in Birmingham. So yeah, but last night or yesterday, Emily and I took a good walk on campus, and Kyle. Well, first off, we then went to dinner at the Supper Club at the top of the Graduate.
Oh, wait. Is that your first time doing that?
The first time. Yep.
How did we not spend an entire segment talking about this?
I know.
Go ahead.
So really, really cool experience. Very good food, very cool place. Just we looked at everything for a long time. Looked at took in the views a lot. It's a very different view now with the other video board up, but you can still see the original one pretty in its entirety.
Right.
So I imagine that's going to be a fun viewing spot for a lot of people this fall. But very cool spot, and definitely doing well even in the summer months. Before we went up there, though, Kyle, we took a walk on campus because we saw a bunch of chairs set up, and there was a wedding on Sanford Lawn yesterday. And not only a wedding, there was also a couple who got married at Auburn University Methodist Church. So there were not one, but two newlywed bride and grooms taking pictures on Sanford Lawn yesterday. And I just feel like you don't see that very often in today's.
I feel like today, yes, we don't hear it talked about. It probably happens more than you and I are aware of, but obviously it's not it's not talked about as much. I remember they held that contest a long time ago for you to have the War Eagle wedding on Sanford Lawn.
I wasn't so surprised to see the couple from AUMC come up. We've ended up finding their wedding websites. I wasn't so surprised to see just a little bit to see the couple come over from AUMC and take some pictures, but seeing all the chairs and the ceremony set up for the other couple was something I haven't seen in a while since that contest, really. So really interesting and really pretty cool. So looking forward to seeing those pictures one day.
I think yours probably took the one up on me. There's like signed or not. This is not even a signed football. It's just a football. And he's talking about, things that are eternal, hopefully, marriage, hopefully.
That's right. That's right.
Maybe not for some these days, but if you sign, that's the rule. If you actually, I can't even say that. Never mind, Kyle. Rewind. Stop putting your foot in your mouth because there are things that I can't say anymore. Congratulations to those of you that made Auburn in some way part of your marriage processes. But it's one of those things, it'd be cool maybe to tie this thing off to renew your vows. To renew your vows there would be a cool thing one day. Not that they need to be renewed, but just like people like to do that when they're, much further along in the marriage years and do something special just to reaffirm their love and commitment. So Jessica, if you can hear me down the hall, go ahead and plan in about 25 years, maybe something like that. 30 years.
Is that what you're going to end up doing? What would 25 plus now be?
We're at what?
Do people do that at 50 years?
Supposed to ask me about how many years I'm in.
You've already put your foot in your mouth, so I might as well just stick the other one in there too.
2011. Math. Hurry. 14
would be 14.
So 25 would be 40. So for our 40th anniversary, Jessica, down the hall, we are going to go get vows renewed on Sanford Lawn. It's happening.
We will live stream it on episode 4,832.
Of course, it's what we do as content creators. After all, we got to bring it all in. Okay, so let's get rolling here. Auburn Potpourri. We got a lot of different news things to hit with you today. Certainly, if you are a Auburn recruiting junkie, and I do mean junkie in the most loving sense, but also the most literal sense, because some of y'all are junkies. There are many elements to this past week of recruiting that we could discuss. Some probably we won't get into because it's not really that productive at this point. My guess is that if you're concentrating on golf, you're focusing on the wrong things. And I'm not talking about the head coach. All right, let's talk about the things that are main focuses. There were some decommitments this week, but what there were also were 2 commitments that were one really big in terms of size. Let's start right there. And once again, as Austin and I always talk about, we probably are going to mispronounce certain names. I'm going to do my best. Just forgive a poor accent boy from Alabama trying to figure out these things. What's cool about this recruiting store, Austin, is we went not just outside the Southeast, not just maybe midway across the country, not all the way across the country. We went to a completely different country, a different side of the world. Nike Hepe from New Zealand NFL Academy. If you didn't know what that was, it's kind of a way for them to get eyes on themselves, so they don't really have a lot of competition options over there in the Asia Pacific region. But that's located in Australia. But he's from New Zealand. He committed to the Auburn Tigers this week. 6'7", likely an offensive tackle. They grow him big down in New Zealand, Austin.
No kidding. 6'7", I think like 350 was his weight that I saw. And
something like
so
that.
Just crazy size. And, you know, even if you don't see him on Friday nights inside the state of Alabama going up against some of the best, you know, with that kind of size, you're going to – that's a pretty good place to start, I think. So just a crazy, crazy size number for a commitment, and could be a really, really intriguing prospect for Auburn. And I believe he was a 2026, correct? So
2026.
So that would be next fall. He would be on campus. We will see how it goes, but that's a fun storyline to track. And look, we've heard of Auburn getting the punters from down under, but we got the biggins from.
So you were.
I got nothing.
You put yourself out on that limb.
I'm still working on it.
Just don't fall off. You hang out there.
The biggins from New Zealand. We'll figure it out.
40 minutes into the show, he's going, I got it.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to Nike. We were really excited to have him as part of the class. Certainly nothing is a foregone conclusion until everything's signed and they arrive, really. But that's just a really cool, unique story. The first from an NFL Academy situation over there to go to a power conference too. So Auburn's making history in a lot of ways. And when you get a guy with that kind of size on offensive line, hey, let me just add this too, folks. They play rugby a lot down there, and you got to be able to move even as a big man if you're going to be playing rugby. So if you're wondering about athleticism, just think about that. 6'7", 350 pounds, and he can move to play rugby.
I would get out of the way so fast it wouldn't even be close.
Get out of the way. I wouldn't even go out there. I would just be worried he's going to like run past everybody and just run me over too. Anyway, welcome Nike to the Auburn 2026 class. Also, the 2026 class news this week. This one was probably, I think it's fair, Austin, to say a surprise. Would you say that as well?
Yeah, I was surprised. And I mean, you're talking about a quarterback commit in this high school class, one that I don't think anyone had heard his name before, unless you're, like you said, a junkie. I think that shocked a lot of people. Go ahead and introduce him.
Peyton Falzone. So once again, I said it on Auburn Family Night, but I saw several other content creators out there running with this too, and I think it's obvious. We all have to say it. If there's a calzone company still in Auburn that has not taken full advantage of the calzada situation that was here, not that you could take advantage of it that much, but you need to immediately be planning your marketing for 2026 when hopefully Peyton Falzone arrives to be a quarterback at Auburn. This one, Austin, I mean, we've addressed, obviously, the start of the week recruiting wasn't all that great, but we went from lows to question marks to, okay, well, we're getting our footing back to Where did this one come? This is the first time that I remember in quite some time that the normal media guys that we hear talking about this a lot seem to, I want to say they all were completely surprised, but I think most people, given what I saw, were surprised by this particular one. What do you make of this? Because this is 2026.
Yeah.
We got 3 guys that could all be back next year. What's your thoughts on this commitment and what does this mean going forward?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think in the realm of with 3 guys coming back, I think in today's world of college football, you're taking a quarterback every year from the high school ranks just to continue to build that, because you never know what attrition will happen, whether good or bad. And so I think that I'm not surprised Auburn decided to grab a quarterback in this class. However, I don't, like you said, I don't think there were a lot of those who are the professionals in the recruiting realm on this field that had his name coming to the top so quick and being an option to pull the trigger like this so quickly. Only offered at the beginning of the month from Pennsylvania, was committed to Penn State, and decides to flip to Auburn. Certainly not a trajectory you normally hear for Auburn pulling a guy from an in-state program, especially a program like Penn State. But really interesting. Really interested to see where that goes. And if, in today's recruiting world, you never know what sticks until the pen meets the paper, sometimes not even then. But I think that certainly looks like a guy who would fit in an Auburn offense and fit the kind of scheme Hugh Freeze wants to run. Who knows at what point he might see the field for the Tigers, but just a really interesting and surprising pickup, but one that looks to be a good one.
I got to point out this little weird correlation here. Not only are we continuing to build that pipeline up into the Northeast, it seems like, with starting in Maryland and now working its way up into Pennsylvania. That's just wild. This is now the 3rd time in recent history under Hugh Freeze that we have exploited Penn State in some way. Not only did we take their best wide receiver in Keandre Lambert-Smith and really make do with it. Well, frankly, he's the one that sees the opportunity. We just were, the receivers, recipients of those great things. We flipped back Alvin Henderson, who's now part of the team. And then now we've flipped a prospective signee. He is currently a commit. So I don't want to call Penn State rivalry here with them quite yet, but it's kind of interesting in the last couple of years to watch how this dynamic is going. You think we can get a little something going there with Penn State?
Yeah, lots of connections. We talked about it back when Auburn had the home and home, and how it was it wasn't a good turnout on the field for Auburn in either game, but I enjoyed my trip up there. I know a lot of other people did. We enjoyed them being down here, and there was a lot of good, camaraderie between fans of football. And so maybe this will lend to the home and home happening again in a few years. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. But for now, we'll keep taking advantage of Penn State as much as we can. A little bit in the sports realm, but this is kind of one of those things that you definitely don't pay attention to a lot in a normal cycle of things, but we should. And this is why, because great things are happening in the Auburn space, even outside your traditional big 3, even outside of the traditional sports realms. We're talking about adapted sports. So when I say that is things like wheelchair basketball. We've talked about how great that program is, led by Rob Taylor. He has also led the national team and won gold medals. So that gives you an idea of the pedigree of athletes, leadership that's here at Auburn in the adapted sports space. He's also part of the leadership team for what we're talking about today and your new national champions, the Power Soccer National Champions from Auburn University. That happened literally right after the show last week. So this is a bit about a week delayed, but we want to acknowledge them and talk about them a little bit because that's a really cool thing. We say that we're an everything school. I think we can continue to make that case. It was already before Power Soccer, but just put that in there as like another little notch in the belt for Auburn University. Power Soccer. I mean, I got to watch some of this now because I now that we know, obviously they won a national title, but thrust to some, awareness for everybody. We got to go check this out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I actually have a really good friend who is on the team, and Noah Griffith, and this was his first year on the team, and decided to take something up. Noah is an incredible sports writer, and I've got to work with him professionally as he was with the Plainsman and Opelika Observer, but he took this up this year, and obviously he helped the team out because they are now national champs. And so congrats to Noah and the team. Obviously, that's a super cool accomplishment. And there's only, look, it doesn't matter what the sport is. There's only one national champion in each sport per year. And this year it's the Auburn Tigers. So congrats to them. And yeah, I think we definitely need to check it out.
Check it out. And certainly I've always said that there needs to be a better way to keep track of these things. I did go find, obviously they're on the Adapted Sports website, so you can find their schedule, things like that. I say this for the club teams as well. So go check all that out. It's another thing for you to continue to broaden your Auburn experience and be aware of and celebrate. Because as we continue to tell you, it is wide, it is vast. It's about people, places, and things. Power soccer, just add that on there and continue to make this Auburn experience such a great one. Let's talk a little bit about baseball. It's not often that we get to talk about a player the caliber of Ike Irish. Now, certainly we've talked about him a lot, performances in games, when we've done post-game reviews and things of that nature, post-series reviews, and have been following him for the last 3 years as one of, and currently ending this year, Auburn's best player. About to probably be drafted and leave Auburn, but drafted very high and very deservedly so. He's been acquiring quite a bit of accolades, as you might imagine, throughout the end of this season with all SECs and things of that nature. But he has now, Austin, entered a field that is held by very few at Auburn. The consensus All-America title, meaning all publications or groups, entities that give out a recognized All-America status, Ike Irish has won them all. Now, I think I've got them all listed here. American Baseball Coaches Association, Baseball America, College Baseball Foundation, and Perfect Game. Am I missing anything in that?
Those are the 4 that I had listed in my head. So I think you're right.
That is the ones right there. So he becomes the seventh consensus All-American. So it hasn't been done for Auburn. That hasn't been done a whole lot, but there's also some great names in there. I'm going to put you on the spot, Austin.
Oh,
Would you like to name
I knew you were going to do this.
Come on, let's go. We got to play a game here.
No,
what do you got? Some of these are easy.
This is not a good spot for me to be in. How far does this go back?
This goes back to 1989. So it's not too difficult. Most of these you should be able to have.
Well, we're going to say Frank Thomas is on there.
That's number 1. Ding, ding, ding.
Okay.
1989.
Yep. We're going to say, man, I know the most recent one, and it's slipping from my mind. Was Tim Hudson on there?
Tim Hudson is number 2 on there
2.
in 1999.
Okay, so the rest are 2000 or more.
Good.
Is that correct?
That is good.
Thanks. We're going to say Josh Donaldson was one.
You are incorrect.
Wow.
I know. Isn't that wild?
Man, I'm sitting here thinking there was one in like 2010. Is that right?
You are,
or 09, somewhere right around there.
You are not correct. There are 2 in 2. I'll give you a hint. 2 in 2000.
Oh, well, wait. Sonny DeShare is one.
That is 20. That is the last one. 2022. Yeah. You are missing a 2 from the year 2000. And you're missing 1 from 2018.
2000. Greg Olson would have been one.
No.
And Casey Mize was 2018.
Casey Mize is 2018. So you need the 2 2000 ones.
2 2000s. What can I get the position?
You don't even need a position. One is currently on the team.
Gabe Gross. I thought he was older. I was gonna say that, and I thought he was
Gabe
older.
Gross.
Gabe Gross.
Finally. I don't know that. I think y'all probably spark a memory here. Would you like me just to give it to you?
No, I want the position first.
Okay. I actually don't know his position. I'm going to be honest with you. I think it's an infielder. I think so.
Right, just go for it. Give it to
Todd Faulkner.
Yeah, I wouldn't have got there.
Yeah, I didn't think you'd get that one.
I feel good about that then.
That is quite the list right there. So Ike Irish continues to build up his legacy. I mean, I don't know what more he needs.
Well, not surprising at all, and good for him. Him returning this year, there was a lot of chatter after last year on if he could get paid to go somewhere else and transfer. He did not. He's pretty quickly after the season last year decided to announce he was coming back to Auburn, and boy, did it pay off. So congrats to Ike. Well-deserved for everything he's been to Auburn on and off the field. Hopefully top 10 first-round draft pick is next on his accolades. But really, really special award for a special player.
Absolutely, it is. The legacy continues to build, and it ain't done yet. but we are talking about your latest consensus All-American, Ike Irish. I'm going to throw Austin a little bit of a curveball here. We were going to talk about one thing, but you'll like this one. This is whenever you and I get a chance to talk about the band, whenever you and I get a chance to talk about college football.
Thank you for not
franchise.
letting this slip by. This would have been one of our things where we're like, oh, we did it again.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you caught this.
I caught us. I made us sure we didn't make the mistake. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to know for the world that every time you open up the second edition of the revival of the college football EO Sports video game for this 2026 edition, every single time that game hits start and the music begins, you will hear not only the direction of Dr. Corey Sperlin, not only the sweet, sweet sounds of the percussion, the brass, the woodwinds, every bit of the band, but just the entity that is the greatest band in the land. The Auburn University Marching Band is playing the opening theme for the college football 26 games. How cool was this past week, Austin? I mean, you and I love this game.
Yes.
We love this band. This doesn't get any better than this.
Very, very, very cool. Really well kept secret as they, EA came to campus to record them. Looked like it was in the Coliseum. So you got all the good acoustics that happen in Beard Eves. And they recorded the intro to the game. EA said they sought Auburn out as the candidate for it. And Auburn was happy to oblige, but just a very cool opportunity to feature a lot of talented students on Auburn's campus. And Auburn have a small little hand in one of the most popular video games, surely, of our lifetime. So very cool. Can't wait to hear it. And I think that's a little tidbit that we'll be bragging on for a while.
Yeah, we're not done talking about it yet. And can we just all take a second and acknowledge that all those Bama fans that were so excited to see a certain player on that cover, every time that you look at that cover and you start that game, the sound you'll hear will be what you call little brother. But guess what? We ain't little brother. So anyway, that little fact right there, that they will have to know that that's the case. So many of them won't even be aware, but it is fun to think about, take a lot of pride in the band, and it's a cool thing is the association with the Metallica competition has helped us along. Metallica has that connection with the game here too. So I'm very proud of the band and excited that we got to be the first
Yeah, I've never heard of any other this being presented to any other school. Maybe it has, and it wasn't made as big a deal. But the first time I'm hearing of it.
Well, you know why it wasn't a big deal? Because it wasn't a good enough band.
No,
but
that's
now they got
truth.
the greatest band in the land, college football 26. Get ready, folks. It's just around the corner, and we're going to be talking a lot about that coming up soon. But congratulations to Dr. Sperland and the band. Let's go ahead and move into our main topic segment this evening. Our first main topic is going to be about Auburn and the NBA. Now, certainly much of our discussion is going to centralize around what happened in the draft, the NBA draft 2025, and the fallout of that in good ways, opportunities for those. And we'll see where it kind of goes from there. Think of this as almost like a catch up for you for Auburn in the NBA. Certainly it is the off season. So a lot of this can change still, as something already changed for one player who's currently in the NBA. But use this as, yes, an NBA draft recap, but also Auburn in the NBA. To open things up, Austin, I know it feels like we bring this up all the time, but it's worth repeating. The way that Bruce Pearl has altered the identity of Auburn basketball, not just on the college basketball landscape, but on the professional viewing of them and what comes out of your program, is just so night and day different than anybody before him. Not to say that there hasn't been great players. There clearly have. I mean, one of the greatest, Charles Barkley, came during Sonny Smith's time, and Marquise Daniels came out of Cliff Ellis. There were others that didn't bring in anybody. Anyway, it doesn't matter. There's a great history already there. But you and I always talk about appreciating what you have. I don't know how we can have any unappreciation when you look at that fact alone, what Bruce Pearl has done for Auburn in regards to the NBA.
Yeah, quite several years that I have certainly, from an Auburn perspective, not cared at all about the NBA draft. But Bruce Pearl has made that in recent years very applicable and very noteworthy for Auburn fans to tune in. And certainly this year was no different, but it has changed Auburn, and not just all of college basketball, but in the basketball landscape, college, professional, overseas, regardless. And so it is a lot more fun on this side of it, certainly. And there's plenty of great Auburn men that are benefiting from it. So yeah, I'm super excited for more discussions like this. But one of our favorites has got a new home after the draft this week.
Man, it's such I think vindication. Not that it was unknown that Janai Broom was as good as he was, but a lot of people like to throw shade and say that he was only going to be a good college player, and I think obviously some NBA teams disagree with you. One in particular, but a lot that were looking at him. Janai Broom is your one and only player in this draft to get selected in the draft process. More to come after we talk about the draft here for Auburn. Janai Broom goes second round, 35th pick overall. It's like the 5th pick, I believe, in the second round. So very early, right where a lot of people had him. And if it wasn't poetic enough, let's send him where one of the greatest, maybe the person that he's compared to the most, first set foot into the NBA, the Philadelphia 76ers, a la Charles Barkley. When I saw Sixers come across the screen, I said, somebody is writing a script right here. This doesn't get any better. It's so awesome. So, Janai Broom, a Philadelphia 76er. So proud of him.
Yeah, really great spot. Someone shared a picture, and I'm sorry, I'm not crediting whoever that is, but someone shared a picture of Janai with the commissioner, Adam Silver, and in the background on the screens, they've got all sorts of Philadelphia 76ers logos and pictures, and right next to Janai is a picture of Charles playing.
Yep.
And it's just a very cool shot because, like you said, there's that is Auburn's most notable and most visual figure of Auburn basketball. And for Janai to follow that up with someone who has a resume that certainly stacks up against Charles, if not surpasses, and that's Charles' words, not mine, to go to the same spot is very cool. So I love the fit from a basketball standpoint. We're all familiar with Joel Embiid. Has some health issues, and so think there's certainly an avenue for Janai to find his way on that team quickly. And make an impact. So I love the fit. I think it'll be really cool, and we'll certainly be pulling for him.
Right, and he's switched numbers. If you're aware of that or you're not, 4 is retired for Philadelphia. So he showed that Auburn education, explained his
right.
his 2 + 2 = 4. So I'm going to go with 22. So 4 is retired for him. 22 is not. He's going to build his legend with that number for right now. But he also walks, and as he always has been, in some giant footsteps of Charles Barkley, but is making his own stories. It is just special and poetic that the 2 greatest players in Auburn history have walked such similar paths. We'll continue the discussions about who's the greatest as time goes on. I think some time still needs to pass a little bit for that, but the comparison is getting much and much easier with some of these funny things happening for him in the the NBA draft. So that's it for the draft part of things. No other Auburn guys were selected in the draft part, but just like with any other process, there are free agent options. Those are usually 2-way contracts, meaning that they can play with the professional team, and then their G League team. And then you've got something called an Exhibit 10 contract, which is like a step down from that, where it's kind of like you get just a shot to show off stuff again. It's still a great thing. So we've got all of those examples here. So let's run through those. These are all your free agent pickups for Auburn after the NBA draft. I'll run through them fast for you. Miles Kelly went to the Dallas Mavericks on a 2-way deal. Dylan Cardwell went to the Sacramento Kings on a 2-way deal, and Chaney Johnson with an Exhibit 10 contract to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, I think there's some interesting connections and storylines within some of those things, but your thoughts about Miles, Dylan Chaney, and what you think about what they have achieved here and just getting picked up in free agency by these guys.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really great that Dylan and Miles both got two-way spots, because that, for those that don't know, that guarantees you some time with the major club.
Right.
That they'll probably spend the majority of their time in the G League. We certainly believe those guys are talented and can make waves, and those contracts be converted. But this gives them at least guaranteed some time on the biggest stage to be able to play with the big league team, and so I think that's fantastic for them. That's the best case scenario, right? After being drafted, and even if you're drafted, there's no guarantee you're not spending some time in the G League as well. So I love that for Dylan and Miles. I think that both of their skill sets are right up there can help real NBA teams. Miles certainly a shooter, and if he continues to find his stroke, he'll help Dallas out in a big way. Dallas needs to probably schedule a couple games in Rupp Arena and just to get him going. But I think that Miles will be just fine. And then Dylan is we've all always known Dylan has a defensive rim protection and running of the court to work in the NBA. Sacramento is certainly a great spot for him, and they obviously loved him enough to make that deal pretty quickly. If you didn't get to see the video Drake Caldwell put out of Dylan choosing to go celebrate at Toomer's Corner after his contract signing, that's a pretty great video. And we've talked about that on this show about how Toomer's can be a celebration for a lot of things for Auburn people. And I love that Dylan chose, the Auburn man, Dylan Caldwell, chose to celebrate at Toomer's Corner. So, and then for Chaney, an Exhibit 10 contract, obviously Chaney has been working hard from UAH all the way up to Auburn to show he belongs. I have no doubt that he'll be able to do the same with an Exhibit 10 contract with Cleveland. And, we'll get into summer league games here pretty quickly, and that's where a lot of these guys are able to go ahead and show off and contribute pretty early, and very similarly in like how you can show off in summer league, especially on those Exhibit 10 contracts. Other teams might say, hey, I know you're on that Exhibit 10. When that expires, we'd love to put you on two-way or sign you to the big league. So Chaney will have that opportunity. I'm sure other guys will too. We didn't get to hear about Denver Jones or oh gosh, I'm blanking on the other name I was going to bring up. We didn't get to hear about other Auburn players kind of in those areas yet. And certainly Auburn's made waves overseas internationally too. But congrats to all those guys. And those two-way contracts are so important, even if you're not drafted. And I'm really happy to see those guys get them. But I did want to say, Kyle, it's just one draft pick, but there's some teams that don't get any draft picks. And so to make sure that you get one, it means a lot. So
can you imagine having, predicted picks that didn't get drafted? Like,
can't be me.
It couldn't. Can you imagine? I don't know who could ever experience that type of thing. Couple connections here for some of these pickups of two-way deals and stuff. Miles Kelly is going to the Dallas Mavericks, where Marquise Daniels played a lot of his time. Marquise went around to a lot of different teams. Sure. And certainly, he's probably not known for just. Actually, I think he's probably most known for his Dallas Mavericks time. So
probably.
Kind of like we talked about with Janai, the Charles connection. There's a little bit of an extra Auburn connection is there. Not really anything at the Sacramento Kings. There is, I believe, Tony Douglas, but he went to Auburn for 1 year and then went to Florida State, I think is what it is. So I guess if you want to throw that connection in there. And then Chaney Johnson getting a shot with the Cavaliers. Now, something has certainly changed in the last couple of days, but Okoro and Okiki were both there for a time, and Sharif was there for a time. So the Cleveland Cavaliers, which have a little orange in their color, kind of like the orange flavor from Auburn a little bit, it seems like. So we're so happy for all of them. Happy for Janai, happy for these guys, and happy for every other Auburn player that is going to get an opportunity overseas, in TBT, all these things. The story is not done for these guys, and we're going to continue to celebrate them. To round out our time here on this subject, we started off celebrating once again the change of Auburn's identity on the professional basketball level because of Bruce Pearl. Let's recount the history here of what has transpired. Since Bruce Pearl has arrived, he has had a total of 7 guys in the draft selected. And this is coming from a time where when was the last one that got drafted before that? I know it was like the early 2000s.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Something. But here's your list. Chimo Kiki in 2019 to Orlando. Isaac Okoro in 2020 to Cleveland. Sharif Cooper in 2021 to Atlanta. JT Thor to Charlotte in 2021 as well. 2022, double dose. Walker Kessler to the Jazz, and Jabari Walker. What the heck? Jabari Smith. You know, real quick, that was in the release, and I just kind of copied and pasted from my own things, and I saw that and didn't fix it on my own thing. So Jabari Walker, Jabari Smith to Houston. Now, obviously, we know that Chuma has moved around, and I think he's still with Cleveland, as we addressed earlier. Isaac has just been traded to why am I blanking? Help me.
Chicago
Bulls. Yep. How do I forget that? That's awesome, by the way. JT Thor's moved around a little bit. I think he's kind of in flux at the moment, maybe potentially staying with the Wizards. Sharif has moved off to do other things. Kessler and Jabari Smith are with their still team. So that's kind of a little bit of a picture of where we've come from, what Bruce has done, and where we currently stand in the NBA. Now adding Janai to the mix here, obviously, with the 76ers. So thoughts about those guys or anything else that sticks out to you just from that list, the history that's been made?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of really talented guys have come through Auburn and be able to go on and do professional things and do them well. You mentioned Jabari, and the news came out just a couple hours ago. He'll be with you. We talked about him last week with his new teammate, Kevin Durant. He'll be with Houston for the next 5 years with a massive contract. Feel
good about that for him, because, you know, when KD come in, a lot of people said, is he coming to replace? But obviously they value Jabari.
I think they're going to work just fine together. And I think that a lot of people were saying similar things of just get those guys together and let them learn off each other, and they'll be just fine. But congrats to Jabari on a cool $122 million deal over 5 years. Jabari, we'll name this whole experience after you if you want to. Just give us a call.
He's donated to some other Auburn entity.
That's
so
right.
Jabari, this will be the Jabari Smith experience, sir. If you want to talk business,
I'll wear a jersey every week. I'll wear a hat. I'll do whatever. We'd be happy to. But you know, it speaks to a lot about Auburn basketball and how far it's come. You know, Coach Cal talked earlier in the week or a couple weeks ago about. And certainly he's had a lot of NBA talent go through his programs. And I think he mentioned a certain number of all the contracts. He was certainly on a recruiting pitch on a large scale podcast at the moment. But those numbers are growing for Bruce Pearl and Auburn. And that's something I don't think anybody saw coming several years ago. So very, very cool. Very awesome. And, you know, Kyle, up until this point, he's done it with Under Armour. And I was told that was not possible for a long time.
Yeah.
So
I was told you couldn't win basketball games. I was told you couldn't recruit well. I was told you couldn't make the Final Four. I was told you couldn't get a first-round draft pick or any draft picks for that matter. I was told you couldn't.
If he's done all that with Under Armour up until now, 24 hours from now it'll be something to see with Bruce Pearl, I guess. So
you're opening up doors we don't have time for. It's been done by Bruce Pearl in whatever fashion. The story has been laid. The path has been shown. And it has just continued with Janai on the official draft stance, but even others who have found their way into the league outside of other avenues, two-way contracts, international play. The story continues to be written by Bruce Pearl, and we should all continue to be so thankful about Auburn basketball, and professional basketball is now a solidified thing under Bruce Pearl. Let's move on to our final main topic this evening, and we're going to have some fun. We do this particular series.
We always have fun.
Sometimes more than others, and sometimes that fun gets us in trouble.
Wow.
By the way, did you notice I didn't even open up the Nike door at all?
Wow. It's for next week. It's for next week.
It's already penciled in. Trust me, all you screaming that somehow.
Right. It's for next week. Anyway. We'll Kyle and I will be live purchasing on air. So,
our main topic to round out the show here is Auburn potpourri. Not Auburn potpourri. We already did that. Is Auburn Mount Rushmore. We love this series that we've been doing for quite some time. Yes, quite some time. We have probably 2 years now. We've done this on and off where we'll tackle not just the easy ones of Auburn sports and Auburn football, Mount Rushmores, but we're trying to come up with the ultimate Auburn Mount Rushmore. But to do that, you've got to go do your due diligence in every category you can. We've done one on Auburn quarterbacks. We have done one on Auburn baseball pitchers, one on Auburn basketball guards, Auburn academic buildings. And so now we're going to bring you back a little bit to football because we know that's where a lot of you stand. And it's one that tons of people continue to ask us to do. So I'm going to hopefully officially put out, because I'm struggling a little bit, and ask you all to participate as well, your official Mount Rushmore of Auburn running backs. We want to know from you, and we're going to help all figure this out together. Like we always do, Austin, with these, I feel like there's always one, maybe two that automatically are on the list. We'll talk about each individually here and then talk through our subsequent picks, but I'm going to see if we're on the same wavelength. Number one is?
Probably some white walk-on in the 80s or something. It's Bo Jackson.
It's Bo Jackson. Number two is?
I've got Cornell Cadillac Williams.
Thank you. Okay,
all
so
right. We're on the same page.
Let's put this out there right now. Everybody, if you do not have Bo Jackson and Cornell Williams in 1 and 2 slot, you are incorrect, and you are thus disqualified from any conversations going forward.
Go ahead and log out.
Okay. Not that we need to expound on this a ton, but we do need to spend a little time on each. Bo Jackson speaks for itself. Heisman Trophy winner, arguably should have been part of a national championship team. Was just not given the opportunity to be named a national championship. Was in All-American, holds records at Auburn. You can go through this. You can look up the stats for running backs at Auburn. He's at the top of a lot of those lists and should be still. And then, as we always talk about, it's hard. You can promise you're going to separate the stories outside of them from these conversations, but you just can't.
Right.
So we got to acknowledge he's just the world's greatest athlete, at least our lifetime out there. What else can we say about Bo other than that he needs to be in the top of the athletes list, not just the running backs list?
The running back stats speak for itself with 43 career touchdowns, second in Auburn history in total rushing. Two-time All-American, SEC Player of the Year. Like his resume stacks up and is going to be at the top for most schools, if not all other schools. And so he is the picture of Auburn football for so long. And so he is number one, and there's just really no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
It's not much more that you can say other than
Bo
Jackson. Bo knows that he's number one on this Mount Rushmore, and I don't think there is a single player that would disagree. Even number two,
correct,
on both of our lists, and that is Cornell Cadillac Williams. And I understand. I acknowledge those of you that know me well and watched me do this content for years. Professed my love for one coach, Cornell Williams, what he did as a player, what he did for this team, and what we chronicled, you and me, as an interim, and how he revived for short 4 games the spirit within Auburn to actually go out there and put up a fight in a very abysmal time for us. I'm gonna start tearing up if we talk about it again.
Here we go.
Cornell Williams deserves to be number 2 and on this Mount Rushmore every day and twice on Sunday, just from his on the field, his what he did after the fact, all that kind of stuff. To me, he was my Bo Jackson, because I grew up in a time where Bo was this legend, and you just hear about him and you can see highlights, but you didn't get to see him. I distinctly remember, Austin, this game versus Syracuse, where I believe it, in my view, was his coming to the forefront party as a freshman. I think it was triple overtime at Jordan here. I was there, and just seeing him run around this bend in overtime to score a touchdown, I think put us ahead. That was when I solidified that moment. This is my guy. And I watched, and he did have injuries that he struggled with and some frustrating seasons as a team. But from that point forward, we watched him run smooth like a Cadillac. We watched him go crazy. I'm sorry. I know he's my guy, and I love him so much. But I got to give you some time to talk about him and why he deserves to be on your Mount Rushmore.
Well, I think you said it very well. He's he's the guy that was a lot of this generation's in the early 2000s main running back to watch. The next one of running back you at Auburn. He's got all the accolades past what many of this generation currently will remember him for as Coach Cadillac, but he's got the accolades from on the field. If you can beat Bo in something, then you've probably got a case, and he's got more rushing touchdowns than Bo, total touchdowns than Bo. Certainly up there with rushing yards as well. But I don't love to get into the pro playing career part of it,
Sure.
but certainly it's hard not to mention that as how well he did in the pros, as well as offensive rookie of the year, the 5th overall pick. And then obviously the team success, I think, is a big factor in it too. When you look at that, he was part of that 04 special perfect season team. Certainly there were other factors as well and other teammates who played a role in that. But I think Carnell was the face and certainly has been for many people since. And so there's no question. I think that he's second on the Mount Rushmore. And like you said, with so much that has happened in recent years of being on the coaching staff, being the head coach for a time in such a tumultuous era and kind of being able to pull Auburn out of that just briefly, this speaks even more. So no question, Carnell Cadillac Williams is going crazy as number 2 on Mount Rushmore.
Listen, if you want to get my little orange and blue heart fluttering, all you got to do is play that clip of Carnell Williams looking into that camera and saying, Auburn's going to be all right. Auburn's going to be all right. Okay.
Some of y'all still need to hear that, by the way.
It does. Yeah, can we get that on repeat right now? So this is where it gets difficult, Austin.
Yeah, you're going first.
Okay, fine. There are so many.
Give me the one you feel best about, like the one where you're like, you're not as confident as Bo and Cat. No, I just deep in your heart, give me the one you feel best about.
This is the problem.
I believe in you.
I struggle to narrow it down after these two because there are so many good options. I'm a big history buff, and so I find myself leaning more to the stuff that I know less about in terms of I experienced it, to give honor and respect to that, what has been done. And I think sometimes that's easy to do. It's also easy to go to the recency bias. There are just names here that could all be on here for a variety of stats and reasons. Can I give you 2? I haven't made I'm trying to make up my mind here. I'm not saying this is on my Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
James Brooks and Joe Cribbs. Hold on. Just hold on.
Okay.
Because I don't know that I can put them both on there. I don't know.
Well, I did. So
okay, sorry. You took the correct route, but I'm trying to be a little bit nuanced here.
That's fine. That we need that for the show. It's anything for the show. I'm gonna go
Joe Cribbs.
I have Joe Cribbs at 3, so
my Joe Cribbs is because of this total rushing yards 3,368. Let me pull up the rest of this stuff here. Joe Cribbs would also be 3rd in touchdowns behind Cadillac and Bo with 34. After that, you can just continue to look at some of the stat categories that he falls into. He's in plays. He had, Joe Cribbs is 3rd in all rushing scrimmage plays, that type of stuff. When you go through the categories, Joe Cribbs pops up just about as much as Cadillac or Bo or some other that kind of is mixed in there because of some specialty they had. I think Joe Cribbs, not unfortunately, what am I talking about? Joe Cribbs has to go into that 3 spot. This feels a lot like Jason Campbell to me, where like when you just break it down, he has to be on there.
Yeah.
Anything else to add there?
I had Joe Cribbs. I have a little bit of partial bias. My dad talked about Joe Cribbs to me growing up so much. That was his high school, my dad's high school era was Joe Cribbs' college time at Auburn. And so very, looked up to it, very tried to model playing styles after. So I've heard about Joe Cribbs for so long. And so I think that I hear him talked about as I'm not saying he's on the level. We've already defined Bo and Cadillac as 1-2 here, but for me growing up, Joe Cribbs was heard as much talked about in that realm in our house. But he has the accolades, 3 times all SEC, an SEC rushing leader in 78, top 5 in Auburn rushing yards. Like, it's not as if there's a major drop off here from Bo and Cadillac to him. I think he's very deserving. A different style of running back than the other two. Certainly, the other two could catch, but Joe Cribbs had just a knack for being a receiver out of the backfield that was very, very helpful to those late 70s Auburn teams. And it was just a game changer at a time when Auburn needed one. Formed a very good backfield with James Brooks, who I'll just lead into that if that's fine with you. He's my number 4. They were the Ronnie and Carnell before they were there. Joe Cribbs and James Brooks. And so I just think that those two guys are natural. Like you, I didn't see these guys play. None of you want to know when I was born, but it was much later than this. And so, James Brooks has all those same stats that are just right under there of Joe Cribbs. And those two, I think, are just legends in Auburn running back lore that a lot of people forget about because of the recency bias, but also just didn't have the Heismans, didn't have the Doak Walkers or were on the incredible teams, but certainly had accolades that are worthy of being in a top 4 and would be at other schools. Now, with James Brooks, and here's why I have him at number 4, because I think a lot of people would I could see why you wouldn't have James Brooks. I think a lot of his, not success, but a lot more people know him from his pro career. Mm-hmm. Is that fair to say? Would you agree with that? I think now, certainly all SEC first team twice, led Auburn in rushing, all-purpose yards, has over 30 touchdowns, set records at Auburn. But I think from a pro standpoint, had a very good career that a lot of people knew him for. And we're talking Auburn Mount Rushmore. So I get that. But I'm just saying I think that would be a possibility of why you could kick him off. Where are you at on 4? I know you don't want to go James Brooks, and that's fine.
It's not that I don't want to. You know how well-rounded I like for my Mount Rushmores to be. And here's where I'm kind of at. Ronnie Brown doesn't have the stats holistically.
Sure.
But he's part of a duo and, went number 2 over in the draft and had stayed healthy. Who knows what his career might have been with the Dolphins too. You add that. I know it's not part of the Auburn Mount Rushmore, all that. But if I'm going to almost remove him from this equation because Cadillac was the quote unquote more prominent of the Auburn duo there, I feel like I have to do the same to James.
Sure. I understand.
So that's kind of where I'm at with this.
I thought I'd be putting Ronnie on mine when we first started talking about this. We started talking about a couple weeks ago, but so I get it.
It also feels biased. I'm not saying Ronnie yet though. So that's where I'm kind of like Ronnie, James Brooks. But then if you look at how mine is set up, you've got Bo from the 80s. You got Joe Cribbs from almost the 80s, but the late 70s.
Or late 70s, early 80s with Bo.
You've got Caddy in the 2000s. I feel like to really capture Auburn's running history, you've got to have someone from this era. The problem is I think the best candidate just left.
Yeah, that's fair. I think you're going to get flack for this, and I don't think you should.
I'm not saying it's him. I'm not saying it's him. I'm just saying if he had not just left and we were talking maybe 5 years removed from this guy and he's starting to have a pretty decent NFL career, I'm probably going to change my opinion that I've said to some people publicly that have tried to say he needs to be on this list automatically. I might actually go with you on this one. So that's the struggle I have. You also got the struggle of names like Trey Mason. Mm-hmm. And what he produced, Kenny Irons, James Bostic, and some of these, they were specialty backs, but they were so good. Ben Tate.
I loved Kenny Irons and Ben Tate so much. My little Auburn jerseys were just hanging up. I wish I had them still. I loved Kenny Irons and Ben Tate. The honorable mentions here, and I mean, I know you haven't listed your 4th, but we'll get there. But this is why it was hard, though. The honorable mentions to all the way up to 3 are people sleep on the running backs at Auburn, and I'm telling you though that the depth of the running backs, if you just go down that list, if you even just look up Auburn rushing leaders in top 10, it's filled with possibilities.
It is filled with possibilities.
Who are you going to go with? Who are you going to go with?
I know. And we've mentioned so many and I still haven't mentioned enough. I think for now, I'm going to do what's probably the most correct for the time being, but feeling like this could change very quickly for me. I'm going to put James Brooks with you as well. Okay. And I have no qualms putting him there, but I cannot stress this enough. I feel like this one could change on a whim, just because somebody made a great point to me. Rudy Johnson's a great one. You know, he's a little limited.
It was on my list. Yep.
He's a little bit limited because of time, you know, how long he was here and things like that. But anyway.
Yes. Well, and I think that's a big case for James Brooks and the Joe Cribbs there is a lot of these guys weren't playing, our current guys are not playing as long as they were. And so it kind of limits your productivity and limits your accolades that stack up. But I think Trey Mason for me was him and Ronnie were the first two or right on the cusp of being added for me. Ronnie, especially, we've already talked about his accolades match right there with Cadillac. I want to say Cody with Cadillac. And certainly has all was the tandem duo. Trey, I think, obviously has a special place in people's hearts because of the team success too, but also the SEC championship, getting to go to the Heisman ceremony and the voting. And then I think the tier below that for me is probably like Kenny Irons, Ben Tate, Tank Bigsby, guys who I just had a real affinity for and had numbers, but maybe just weren't here long enough or contributed, but the team overall wasn't quite as successful. But man, the list is so deep. It is so deep.
Mm-hmm. If someone wants to make a case for me to put Ben Tate, Trey Mason, or Jarquez Hunter, although that one's going to need some time to pass, I would be willing to listen over James Brooks. But for now, deservedly so. We agree. Bo, Cadillac, Joe Cribbs, James Brooks. Auburn U is represented at the forefront by these four incredible college and for a lot of them pros running backs. Auburn is running back U. There is no question about that. It is deep. It is wide. They are fast. They are strong. They are bulldozers. They are absolutely incredible. And I cannot be more proud of the history that we have at running back U, Auburn University, the Mount Rushmore. Anything else before we wrap this time up on this discussion and this topic? Is there anything that we've left unturned?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be one where there's going to be a lot of people that have similar combinations, but I think that there's going to be a lot that will differ, and I think recency bias has to do with that, and that's not a bad thing.
No,
but it is certainly going to be fun to read people's defenses and arguments for their own, and I hope we get a lot of submissions in.
We will see what people say. We want to hear from you. Your Mount Rushmore of Auburn running backs. Is it same? Have you found those people that you want to switch out? But let me just go ahead and tell you right now, if 1 and 2 ain't Bo Jackson and Cadillac Williams, you can't be part of this discussion. You out of here for good. That's going to do it for episode 131 of the Auburn Experience. We thank you guys for spending the evening with us. If you watch live, for listening, if you are catching the replay of all this or catching the normal audio podcast of all that, always hit us up at E2C Network at gmail.com if you want to follow up with us with any way, social media, of course. And if you want to follow my social media and keep up with me, Kyle Loomis 24 or on X, where can they find you?
Yeah, at Austin G. Scott on X on Instagram. Hope everybody enjoys the episode. And look, this will be a great episode to be listening to as you watch Auburn take over the SEC Network tomorrow. We didn't get to talk about that as much, but starting tonight at 11 Central, because that's the best time zone, at 11 Central to 11 Central tomorrow night. It's all Auburn all the time. So we could be a part of your takeover if you just keep us on in your earbud there.
Yeah, literally, you just kind of start the show over. And then it just kind of continues on over. And then before you know it, you're wrapping your evening up with the Auburn Texas A&M game. That's right. Which is how it's supposed to end.
It's a good one. Yeah.
You got a good one there. You've got matchups across soccer, across softball, across baseball.
Lots of good ones.
Gymnastics and Oregon State. You and I think we're both at that one where they came back to win against Jade Carey, the Olympian, and shocked a lot of people in that one.
I'll say
All
this,
kinds of
Kyle. I think the SEC Network does a great job, and it's definitely become more of a thing where they take the past year and find the best moments and replay them. But I have like vivid memories of my brother and I pulling our sleeping bags into the living or playroom to stay up and watch like at 1 a.m. the like 1989 Iron Bowl, or like when they would play the really old games. And I kind of wish we'd get a little bit of that back in these takeovers, but I understand they're playing their own coverage of it, so I get it.
It's easier to do that, less hoops to jump through, but
Yeah,
it's all the Auburn experience, and it's all good stuff. And last year, folks, if you need any testament to how good last year was as a whole complete experience,
That's right.
This is a great testament to that. Thank y'all for hanging out with us. Till we talk to you again. War Eagle.
War Eagle.
All right, that may be one of our longest ones.
It's definitely one of our longest
but
ones.
Good topics this evening. So thanks for hanging out with us. Austin, any final thoughts for you?
Yeah, hope everybody has a happy 4th. There will be plenty of stuff to talk about next week. So stay tuned and hope everybody has a great week.
You as well, sir. Passing the ball to you as you go away. See ya.
Thank you. I wish I could like grab one right here and actually that'd be a great effect.
If we timed that out, that would have been awesome.
I have a basketball. Oh, there's one right there.
This one.
You threw it all the way over there.
I did magically. All right.
As you're holding it. All right. Bye.
All right, folks, you're stuck with me for the last few minutes. I can take a couple questions, comments, derogatory rebuttals if you got them here to round out the show. A couple of reminders for you as you are planning out your week and thinking about the rest of the summer. Listen, just because the summer is here and there's no Auburn sports to actively talk about, there are always plenty of things to discuss. So you need to join us for our regular content that we hear. One of the things that we do, obviously, Sunday nights, the Auburn Experience, back next Sunday. But we also have Auburn Family Night. Wednesday nights are Auburn Family Night, 9 Eastern time. You can join us, live call-in show. We'll certainly be talking about some of the things we discussed here, plenty more that happened throughout the week. So don't be shy. Jump on into the chats and join us on Auburn Family Night, or even call in for that particular one. Lots of podcast stuff. We have this show. We have the Everett podcast series I do most weekdays for you all to catch up on, keep you up to date on news. So download wherever you get your podcast if you haven't done that already. If you're listening, or well, this part usually isn't in the podcast part, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Make sure you're getting your podcast. And please, if you can, if you are listening on podcasts, we'd love for you to drop a review on whichever platform you're on. It's very, very helpful to us. A star rating and then a review is extremely, extremely helpful. And what else? I feel like, we're going to be here all this week, but I want you to prepare yourselves for the week following. I will be on a little bit. I know it feels like I've done it a lot lately, but this is the last planned vacation that I have. My brother is getting married and we have to travel quite a ways to go prepare for that. So next week will be a little bit limited on stuff. Don't know exactly how much yet, but just stay tuned for that. All right. Any final questions, comments, derogatory rebuttals? What do we got here in the chat? One more day for Under Armour. There you go. Thank you for the kind words, Devin. We enjoy giving you guys the show. You guys make it enjoyable. We all do great shows together. 2 months to the first game, bringing the parents. Going to be a fun weekend. It's going to be fun. Hughes says, how many luxury boxes again are being added to JHS? Now, to my knowledge, there is nothing new being added this year. I know you're talking maybe about the future and what's been hinted at if you've gotten any of the surveys, like postseason surveys. So if you're talking about the little sweet things that have been in the corners, it's still the normal 4 that have been down there. The luxury boxes, I think, that have been hinted at for future expansion, nothing's been confirmed yet, Hugh. To my knowledge, I could be wrong, but that is part of what may be expanding into the north end zone once the completion of the video board project is done, which it basically is. The facility behind it, supporting it, which will support future expansions, is done. So if that's what you're referring to, that's all I can say about this current time that I'm aware of, but I'm sure it feels like things change rapidly here on that subject. Expansions are underway. Anything else? Last minute comments, questions? Y'all had some great suggestions for Auburn Mount Rushmore of running backs. It was good to hear all y'all's takes on that. So thank you so much. WT says, I love Janai, but putting him as second only to Barkley is a bit hyperbolic unless I misunderstood you earlier. To me right now, he still is number 2. Yeah, so I don't know if putting him second only to Barkley is a bit hyperbolic. I don't know how that's hyperbolic, but I think there's a big recency bias towards him right now, which is not necessarily wrong, but I do think it's important to let some time pass before we talk about Charles versus Janai. Charles has passed that baton in some ways, but in the same sense, I would like personally, before I concede that, because that's what really matters, right? To be the number 1 slot of greatest Auburn players. And so I saw you say this earlier that I don't respect John Mengelt. You need to go back and watch the Auburn Mount Rushmore of guards. John Mengelt, he's on my list. So I give him the respect that he is certainly due. This is from Unbeaten Lake. Still wish we could have the original expansion plans. Love the idea of fans being on the sides as the team come out. That's the important thing to remember about plans. Just because they didn't come to fruition yet doesn't mean they won't. A lot of times something is changed because at the time they don't think it'll work, it can't be funded, all that kind of stuff. And sometimes they come back to it. So don't get discouraged. Whatever they come up with will be the best financial atmosphere thing for Auburn. And maybe it'll be a good marrying of all concepts for making money, for providing fan experience, all of the above. But we all recognize that Auburn, I think football is moving into a period of growth and expansion and I won't say renovation. That's what it is, but even more than that. So all that to say, it's a good time for Auburn football, even if the on the field things aren't necessarily there yet. All right, WT says, point of order, I did not say you don't respect Mengele. I said you were not showing him love by putting Janai so high. No, I do. I definitely want to make sure I know you're saying that I respect him, but I do. I just don't think that John Mengelt holds a candle to Janai Broom. I'm just going to start WT up now. I love John Mengelt. I do think Janai, given his full story that has been written so far, is worthy of being moved into contention for number 1 spot. The biggest example I can give you is Charles saying that for him. But either way, that's what the great thing about opinions. We all got them and they all stink. But what we do know is that we love our Auburn folks no matter what. All right, folks, I got to get out of here. We had a long one tonight. Thanks for hanging out. Till we talk to you again. War Eagle.